So it's as always the case for me. I always have to follow amazing performances and then come up here feeling self-conscious because I followed an amazing performance. So first off, before I get started with everything, I just want to mention, going back to the Olympics theme from before, because I'm proud, and this is going to be for all the Latinos. We also have to remember in 2004, the Puerto Rican basketball team, amateurs, beat the US basketball team in the Olympics, made up of NBA players. So, you know, just pride, just proud. So I'm a community organizer. I'm the Immigrant Justice Director for Action NC. I'm also one of the founding staff members. I've been working there since 2018. And it's basically what put me down this path to where I am today. It taught me a lot of the lessons that I use in my photography. I'm a member of Obra Collective, which is a collective of Latina artists. I say Latina because not everybody identifies as male or female, and so it's a gender neutral term. And we're a gallery. We are also one of the founding organizations for the Vaca Center. So you need to visit our gallery sometime soon, and you know, if you happen to be around in September, you can come to my solo show, just saying. For me, the reason I'm here today is because I'm also a documentary photographer. Last year, I founded Abre la Boca Photo, thanks to many grants, including a HUG grant from Charlotte is Creative. Helped me get lavalier mics. I call it Abre la Boca Photo because in English, that means open your mouth, because to me, being heard is super important. Because of my life, the way my father was treated, the way I grew up living in the South, it's important for me to have a voice. It's important for others to have a voice. And it's based on my life motto, abre la boca para que te escuchen. Open your mouth so you can be heard. So I'm here today to talk about trust and how it's a part of my creative practice. To me, to build trust, you must have empathy. You have to be able to listen and have empathy. You also, and you build this empathy through your own life experiences. Your own story is what drives you to be able to have empathy for other people and to be able to identify with other people, and that's what I use in my photography, in my work. To understand what I do and why I do it, it's also good to understand where I come from, what took me down this path. In 1986, my family moved from New York to South Carolina. I went from being a person of Puerto Rican and Ecuadorian descent to becoming an undocumented Mexican in the South, because for some reason, we're all Mexican in the South. And for some reason, none of us have papers. I grew up being called wetback, fajita eater, burrito eater, a lot of creative things. At one point, I got so angry while working in the kitchen, yes, stereotype, Latino working in the kitchen. I just got up and yelled out, I'm a spick, not a beaner. If you're gonna call me names, at least call me the right one. And so I'm the son of immigrants, or migrants, because my mom's from Puerto Rico, so she's not technically an immigrant. And my father from Ecuador. And I grew up lower middle class in South Carolina. And my parents, they bought their first home, their one and only home. And they were raising 4 children and trying to maintain our one and only house. There were times my father would say, we're about to be on the street. So, because my father exaggerated about everything. Yeah, that's something to put on a 12-year-old kid and, you know, and his younger sisters. Because I don't know how many of you are Latina in this room, but, or children of immigrants in general. This is what we're taught since we're little. We have to work hard, and we have to work harder than everybody else, have to learn the language, because I didn't learn the language until I was 5 years old, because in New York, you don't really have to speak English. So I grew up feeling different, as though I didn't belong. I felt voiceless. I didn't fit in with my white friends. I didn't fit in with my black friends. If I played with the white kids, the black kids made fun of me. If I played with the black kids, the white kids made fun of me. I didn't know where I fit in. So I'm telling all this because it explains why I feel empathy in my work and why I do what I do, because I'm very much driven by all this. I'm also, another big part of this is that my father, as an immigrant, was treated badly in this country. People would yell at him to speak English. People at work as a mechanic at Sears auto shop, he was given the worst jobs because he didn't speak the language, and even though he had more experience than others. And for over 20 years, he tried to get his citizenship, and he finally got that far. He took the exam. He was going to be sworn in. 9/11 happened. Our immigration rules changed, and my father, they took away his citizenship before he could be sworn in. All this, and this is kind of hard for me to say any of this because in 2009, my father, after so many years of feeling isolated, so many years of feeling voiceless, feeling like he didn't have any power, he decided he didn't want to be around anymore, and he took his own life. These are the things that really, really affected me in my life and really made me feel for other people. I eventually became a community organizer, and community organizing was a vehicle for me to finally do something for my community, to finally help others to have a voice, for me to finally have a voice. It was because I didn't want anybody else to feel the pain that I felt. I wanted others to be able to feel their power, to feel their voices. So I became a community organizer, but through community organizing, I learned there was so much more that I could be doing. There was so much more to it than just having a voice, just getting through my trauma. It was also about, once again, helping others to have a voice. So I learned how to interview people, how to talk to people. And one thing I learned through community organizing, and this plays into my photography, into the work I do with my photography, is 90% of the conversation should be the other person talking. You should get to know the other person. We shouldn't be using people. It's about the other person. It's about their dignity. It's not about yourself. That's been ingrained in me as a community organizer. It's not about me. It's about you. It's not about me. It's about you. Even though it is partially about me because I have to have the passion. I have to have the empathy to be able to do this work. Through this, I also learned about the ideas of story of self, story of us, story of now. And that also plays in the work I do as a documentary photographer. The story of self is your own personal story and how it connects to everything we're doing. The story of us is the interconnectedness of all of our different stories. And the story of now is how all of our stories together are ingrained or are part of what's happening right now. And that very much plays into the way that I photograph people, the way I come up with my series, because it's about all of us together, but it's also about the individual and the moment that we're living at the moment that we're living right now. So as a documentary photographer, I believe very strongly in being able to open up your mouth in order to be heard. I believe that you have to empower others to feel the courage, to feel the strength to be able to express themselves, and just to feel courageous enough to allow themselves to be photographed in order for their stories to be told, because often I'm dealing with undocumented people who live in the shadows and are afraid to tell their stories, especially in this atmosphere that we're living in right now in this country, where our options are for president right now are Trump or Trump light. Because let's be honest, President Biden has had some horrible policies when it comes to immigrants. So that's, I come at this work from that perspective. I also, everything I mentioned about empathy plays into what I do right now, because with the life I've lived and the lives of the people I've talked to, we have to feel that empathy in order to be able to help these people. Because once I said, it's not about yourself, it's about them. It is about their dignity. It's not about, and that's everything that matters to me because of everything that I've lived. Through my work, I explore, as I said earlier, themes of privilege, immigration, racism, nationalism, colorism, classism, and identity, because for much of my life, I've been trying to figure out who I was. When I was younger, when I moved to the South, I wanted to be white. I wanted to be white because I grew up in a white community mostly, and I was tired of being treated like trash because I spoke another language, because of the color of my skin. There have been moments in my life where I've been stopped by the police, accused of having stolen a car with a gun to my head. And the police officer calling me a liar. And this was Arpaio's For those of you who don't know, Sheriff Arpaio was a sheriff in Arizona. He was pardoned by Trump, by the way, for his racist things where he had camps, people put in camps in the middle of the summer. And I was also stopped by the Border Patrol at the airport. This one's actually kind of funny to me because when I got stopped, they asked me if I have a license. I gave it to them. It was a South Carolina license. They asked me where I was born. I said I was born in New York. The next question was, if you were born in New York, why do you have a South Carolina license? I had everybody cracking up at the airport because my literal response was, because I moved. Why the hell do you think? Do I sound like I'm from another country? And the response was no. I'm like, well, and the Border Patrol agent walked away with his tail between his legs. And that's the summer that I started becoming more radicalized in what I do because both those incidences happened within 2 weeks of each other when I was learning to be a community organizer in Arizona. Where's the thing? So all this feeds into the work that I do. So right now I'm going to show a few slides with some of the photographs I've been making, some of the series I've been making. Once again, I call it Abre la Boca Photo because it's about opening your mouth in order to be heard. These are some seniors that are part of the organization where I work, where we did a protest against Senator Tom Tillis and his policies around healthcare. So they were saying that they want to make sure that drug prices are not too high for seniors. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was going nuts. I had to get out. I had to get out because everything about my job is about talking to other people, getting to know other people. So I had to get out and see how my community was living. And what came out of that was a series that I created that I exhibited last year, and thanks to Queen City Nerve for voting it Best Photography Exhibit of 2023. So pandemic year one was about how people were living during the pandemic. I met mothers walking with their children, just coming back from grocery shopping. And I stopped and I interviewed this family, asked them about how they were living. They were telling me that it's been hard for them. Like many immigrants, what I heard was, we don't have the same privilege as Americans because we don't have papers. We have to work. We have to risk our lives. We have to continue working. And that's what I kept hearing from everybody in the immigrant community whenever I interviewed them. And I also noticed throughout this that many people when they were able to go roller skating, were able to go on bicycles, walk their dogs. And I noticed a different group of people that were having to work. Were having to walk to bus stops wearing masks and so on. And this is all about privilege, in which before pandemic year one, there was another series I did called Privilege East Charlotte during COVID-19. And it showed how white people and people of color were living. And then eventually became pandemic year one. But I was showing the privilege that people had in East Charlotte. I met people at bus stops. I met people at bus stops and asked them about their lives. People were getting out to vote because this was 2020. We were having elections that year, and this is where people were coming out. These are friends of mine, but I went to polling places and started interviewing people. And one common theme in all this is that I kept approaching people and asking them about their lives. 5 minutes left, okay. Asking them about their lives, asking them who they were. And these are skills that I learned from community organizing. And with the Latina community, it's because I already built that trust, because people knew me, because of my reputation, so I was able to approach them. But I was able to also approach these people because as you realize, if you remember, this is also the year that George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were assassinated by the police. So these are some of the themes in pandemic year one. There were also people protesting. As you can, these are people saying they want that the pandemic was a myth, they wanted Charlotte to open again. Sorry if I'm speeding, but I've only got 5 minutes left. So eventually I came up with Los Esenciales, which was about immigrant essential workers, and and how they continue to work during the pandemic. I went to different businesses to interview people, to talk to them, and ask them about how they were living. And all these people are behind glass because it's the pandemic. This was part of the exhibit that actually gave me the courage to finally start exhibiting. This was at the Columbia Museum of Art. It was called Hindsight 2020. I was the only photographer in the exhibit that actually showed something other than the Black Lives Matter movement. I was also showing how other people were living. I was the one photographer that was able to talk about other issues. I've expanded to start including more more essential workers. This is part of a series that I'm starting now called We Make America Great, because let's face it, our community are the ones that make America great, not what we hear on TV. So I was able to approach this preacher, and he told me to just interview him that afternoon, take photos while he was conducting Mass. All this eventually led to my being hired by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library in order to photograph people, storytellers for the Living Archives exhibit. Hopefully a lot of you got to go see the exhibit. I was able to just really capture the lives of people and capture their personalities. Carla came to the US fleeing Venezuela because her family was being persecuted. These are the kinds of stories I get to learn while I talk to people, because once again, it's about trust, and people feel the trust to tell me about their stories. So, and Cal opened up his own gallery during the exhibit in order to showcase African arts. So these are some of the stories I got to hear, and where am I headed? I am too literal with much of my work, so I'm working to be more interpretive. To me, this is what America's about. It's about racism and capitalism. This is what our flag's about. As you can see, there are words in the flag that show the things that are affecting me. This is based on my father's suicide, and this is his obituary, and how the US killed my father, and how I'm affected by this, by all the different policies in the US, including the US's sense of manifest destiny, and how I was affected by my father's death. Because as you can see from the bleeding from my head, this is how my father did it, with a gun. And yeah, well, this is the first time I didn't cry about this. So where is it that I'm going with all this, and what is it that I want to accomplish this year? I want to continue building trust in my community. I want to continue doing this work because it's an extension of my community organizing. It's an extension of who I am. It's an extension of my life experiences, because I feel this need to work with my community, and I'm hoping that all of you feel a need to work with your community, because a lot of the work we do, whether it be painting, sculpting, is always influenced by our own lives. Is influenced by our own lives and what we see in our surroundings, but also this need to express what we're seeing. And for me, this need is to express my pain, but also to express the pain of others, and to be able to move forward and support each other. So this year, I'm in a mentorship program with the amazing Titus Brooks Higgins. I'm finally improving as a photographer. I'm in, hopefully some of my cohort friends are in here as well. And I've already started making connections at other nonprofit organizations, because I want to work with farm workers. I want to work with other groups to document the work that the nonprofits are doing in this city, in this state, around this country, and to show the dignity of our community. I'm also starting working on a new series, or I'm hoping to be able to start it soon, around housing and homelessness. And I'm looking for funding to do it, because part of what I want to do is be able to give the homeless something for allowing me to photograph them, because you should never use people. Never use anybody for your art. That is disrespectful. That is terrible. Don't ever photograph or do any art around the homeless without their consent. So I want to be able to give them $100 to $200 gift cards for their time, so they can get the things that they need, to maybe get a hotel room for that night, or maybe get something to eat. And I'm looking for funding to make that happen. I, want to be able to do some more exhibits this year. 2 weeks ago, I was able to do a small exhibit in Slovakia. 2 years ago, I was able to do one in Albania, and hopefully next year I'll be doing one in Hungary. I've already been invited. So hopefully I'll be able to do one in Hungary because people are seeing that the work I'm doing and it connects to the issues that they're working on. And I'm also looking for collaborations with anybody in this room, anybody that you know, so that we can work together on these group projects and make them bigger. Because I believe that we as a community can be working to actually make our community better. Art is beautiful. Being creative is beautiful. It should be. But I believe it needs to have meaning as well. It could be the personal meaning you give it, or it could be the meaning that we give it by actually doing for our community. So in closing, I'm looking for collaborations. I'm looking, and if anybody's got any funding to be able to make a lot of this work, just let me know, because I will make that money matter. And I want to thank Charlotte is Creative for this opportunity. Thank you for the Hug Grant. Thank you for allowing me to come up here and be able to tell you a bit about myself. And I'm hoping to learn more about all of you. And I'm hoping that we can build this trust together so we can collaborate and be able to support our community. In the end, you have to open your mouth in order to be heard, and empathy is what gets us to where we want to go. Thank you.